Hello. Today we will discuss the development of a child's writing in the Montessori Primary Environment, ages 3 to 6. We will speak of the philosophy that underpins the Montessori developmental progression and practical considerations. Writing defined. Spoken language lays the foundation for writing. Looking at the child's developmental needs from the perspective of language, the goal is to develop and explore language. The child wants to develop from oral language to the grapheme, the written form, in an analog to human history. Likewise, the child wants to write just like the adult near them. So we provide the environment which gives outlets for the same urge. Writing or representing thoughts through symbol is the natural next step. Exploring this avenue for communication in writing opens the realm of silent communication through symbol. We associate the grapheme not just with the sound, but with every thought and feeling associated with it. Writing and the child's participation in a cultural lineage is a marvelous act. The, pre- the preparation of the mind. What activities went into the preparation of the mind? In the history of language, between 5 and 6,000 years ago, the human mind made a leap in the realm of symbolic representation. We discovered the power of these symbols to communicate across time and space. Then came the biggest discovery, that language is made of a limited set of sounds. Every child passes over these cognitive leaps within a few hundred days in the casa. In a society where writing is part of daily life, every child absorbs this notion. But the fact that language is made of discrete sounds, that is a more difficult discovery to make. Our oral language activities, sound games, sandpaper letters, and movable alphabet allow us to explore sounds, to segment into individual sounds, and then blend them together. This composes the heart of this mental discovery for the child. Once the child discovers that our language is made up of sounds, the next step is to give the child the key sounds of that language, which we call the alphabet. There are only 40 symbols to learn in the English language, and with those the child may express any thought the child has or will ever have in life, or to read any thought whichever has been written in the English language or will be written in the English language. And how amazing that the symbols, these 40 symbols, would be able to open a vast treasure trove of human knowledge and the capacity to communicate with diverse people all over the world explodes. Offering letters. Now, with so many thoughts, the child cannot truly communicate any of them without the control of the pencil. We know that the child learns through senses and movement. Therefore, we provide the alphabet in a way that appeals to the senses, the sandpaper letters. Then, when the child is in the sensitive period for sensory perception, the child can take it in through muscular, tactile, visual, and auditory senses. How far this surpasses standing in front of a child and saying, "This is A," No, the child is fascinated by movement. We give the best that culture can offer, which in our culture is cursive. Nothing is hard or easy to the child. The child takes in all that is given, whether print or cursive. We give the child the tool of the pencil, but even more than this, we give the child the tool of the developed hand. Coming back to the child, what holds the child back from writing? It is the development of the muscle of the hand, or rather, the muscles of the hand. Thus, Dr. Montessori developed the movable alphabet so that the child might begin to write words, sentences, and whole stories while the hand develops concurrently. While the child develops the capacity to express oneself through symbol, we continue to prepare the hand for use of the writing instrument. The, prepara- the preparation of the hand. In the preparation of the hand, there are two parts. One is the handling of the writing instrument. The other is the capacity to form the shapes of the symbols. The child must learn to hold the instrument with necessary and sufficient firmness. We have all seen children who have torn through paper or write so lightly that it cannot be seen. We model the lightness of touch with just the right firmness, therefore, and the child learns to hold the instrument and then writing, knowing how high or how low to go, how to be able to stop and start vertical control. This is purely mechanics and has nothing to do with the formation of the letter. Next comes the consideration of even spacing, moving through horizontal space. Within a word, the letters need even spacing, from first the letter and then to the word. Following, the child learns how to make a contour in the shape or symbol, arising from the flexibility of the rotation of the wrist. Next, the child develops muscular memory for the grapheme. If we follow the principles of isolating the difficulty, we look at each aspect in how it builds the organ to prepare for writing. The child's indirect preparations we make available. The progression the progression of exercises leading to writing. In the area of the exercises of practical life, so many kinds of work constitute the indirect preparation. Spooning exercises give the child feedback on the necessary and sufficient firmness in holding the instrument, with natural feedback from the control of the wrist. The child sews, holding a needle in the pincer grasp, precisely pricking exactly where the line should be sown. The child holds the cylinder of the knobbed cylinder in the pincer grasp, varying the grasp with the weight and dimensions of the cylinder. Each knobbed piece in the geometry cabinet or puzzle map prepares the hand for the precision of the writing instrument. Next comes the development of vertical control. First, the gradations in the touchboards, and then in matching various sensations on touchboards. Finally, completing the same exercises with a blindfold, staying in the spaces for vertical control. Following the fabric boxes, build the deliberate movement in touching. Start at the top, go down, and stop. If the child does not move with proper horizontal spacing, the child now develops a sense for how far to move horizontally, even in a blindfold, to maintain the pattern. When the child traces the tablets, we ask the child to feel it ever more lightly. In the finger tracing of the insets, we show the child point of interest in touching the edge of a shape just enough that the shape of continent, country, or geometric figure does not move. As the child develops this skill in pressure with lightness, the child uses two fingers, which will be controlling the writing instrument. And if the hand is too light, on the other hand, it will not maintain contact at the edge of the object. I entice and challenge. Make sure your fingers never stop touching this beautiful circle. As the child moves, it engages the arm, the whole arm and the shoulder. Likewise, the movements develop muscular, sensory memory for shapes, which will later aid in letter formation. The wrist comes back to the original position, strengthened. Washing clothes and the wringing of wet cloths, the opening and closing of jars, and the pouring of water strengthen the muscles and agility of the wrist. All of these contribute to the indirect preparation of the hand, even before the area of language. And directly, we offer the sandpaper letters, a direct preparation for the formation of letters. And more likely, the child develops muscular strength directly, horizontal and vertical control, and that lightness of touch. At the point of the sandpaper letters, control of error is now the adult guide. An explosion into writing. For all these preparations of the hand, there is no writing instrument in the hand. The first time we introduce the hand to a pencil is with the metal inset. There is no need for a pencil before this special moment. There is a moment before when the child uses a stylus to move around the leaves in the botany cabinet, but the metal inset is the consolidation of all prior indirect preparations, refining the control of the writing instrument. At this point, all the indirect preparations in the mind and hand come together, and the child experiences the explosion into writing. This happened in Dr. Montessori's first Casa dei Bambini at San Lorenzo, the first primary house of children. We see it today in each busy classroom with the movable alphabet, and we see it in directly writing on paper. With every preparation in place, the child writes and writes and writes, making a transition finally from the movable alphabet to wanting to write directly onto paper when everything else is in its place. Writing before reading justified. Writing occurs spontaneously at that point, directed by the child. The child writes about everything, from fiction to nonfiction, letters and messages. This preparation or explosion of love for writing never comes from copy sheets, as from the erroneous belief that motor skills might develop from tracing the dotted lines solely. Although the child may like these pages, and they may be offered for their own exploration. But our energy goes rather into the indirect preparation to make sure the child will be ready to write when the day comes to receive the awe and legacy of human development into writing. We do not take away the keys and preparations in sensorial materials and the exercises of practical life. We cannot say, go to the language area only, because the sensorial materials and exercises of practical life are inextricably connected to writing. When the child is developed, having all indirect preparations in place, the rest of writing falls effortlessly, so seamlessly, that it seems no work went into it at all. Yet they have been working to prepare through other activities for quite a long and joyful time. The preparations and further developing strength continue, such as in clipping the thick rose stem, pulling the muscles of the hand together, or in showing a younger child how to move with the agility to tie a bow or to ring out the clock. Therefore, the natural progression from expression to interpretation of the thoughts of others is embedded in movement, from expression in oral language to expression with differentiated sounds in the movable alphabet and in writing. Then the child can begin exercises in decoding the messages of others with facility and joy. The child develops without judgment against the handwriting page needing to be corrected, the adult giving correction for the hand that is not ready, only with their own developmental process and joy from the earliest age can writing come about. It should. Our job is inspiring the love of writing, exposing them to other children who are awake with this passion. This is the element of the mixed age environment from 3 to 6. We never, ever forget the value of practical life work and sensorial exercise as a preparation of the child to work. These things all work together naturally in meeting the child's needs for each time. was the child's need in pursuing hand washing, dishwashing, and exploration of sensorial objects only to prepare for writing? No. Satisfying the child's need at the present time will lead to future consolidation if guided and nurtured at each appropriate time. The power of the movable alphabet is that the child is not hung up on the mechanics while developing the capacity to explore expressive symbolic speech. At the same time, we can develop mechanics separately. We do chalkboard practice and games separately for the formation of letters, as we develop the hand separately. The child is capable of expression and interested in it, but the hand is not ready. So we have freedom from that development on a different course to allow the child to express oneself and communicate according to those ready desires. This way we can focus on forming each letter well and carefully separate it from the urge to communicate. We develop the horizontal and vertical control through other work with the metal insets. We focus first on the placement of letters on the bottom line for orientation, before the size and scale of the letters. Then we make the discovery that some letters fit within the area, some go above or below, and finding this pattern, we guide it as the child's discovery, not an imposition of dotted lines or tracing before the child is ready. The connection, the lesson of connection from letter to letter begins with the sandpaper letters. What help do we offer for the placement and proportion of letters? We give conscious, direct help to draw the child's attention to specific aspects of their own development. We show the children how the letters relate, how some of them sit on the line, or how some go above. But we draw the child's attention so the child might make that discovery and show it to us. We have been giving the child work with the movable alphabet to do this. For example, Kathleen, we are going to do some work on the movable alphabet together, but it will be something different. Will you bring the box or have a friend help you bring the box? And just one mat today. We show the placement of the letters on a band or perhaps a piece of yarn or even an embroidery line sewn into the mat, sorting the letters above and below the lines which have been sewn or painted. Were you conscious of how the letters sat on the band before? The child will be, if not before this lesson, after. The child will take it out and practice it again with delight. Activities for proportion. In activities with chalk, it depends on the child as to whether they need each step in the progress of development. When the child has been practicing putting letters on the mat, one day you will present the same presentation, establishing the baseline on the chalkboard using a ruler. Remember when we put all the letters on the line on a mat? Today, you can set your chalk letters on the line, on the chalkboard, There is no consideration yet for the size of the letters, only that they sit on the line. It must be related to the exercises with the movable alphabet, so they do not rest the bottom loop of the P, for example, on the baseline. Side by side, we encourage practice to become smaller and smaller. Perhaps the smallness is the focus for another day. Furthermore, if the child needs additional support, we might take out the movable alphabet as well, so that the child might support themselves with this reference. Finally, the child is ready for the formal lined chalkboard. As a further exercise, we may color a band on the lined chalkboard to mirror the mat if it seems necessary for this child. Colored chalk is helpful for creating the band to differentiate it from the color of the letters. And here, the color of the letters is not significant, but color can be used to attract the child to the lesson. It is much more interesting to the child than handwriting lessons to trace on copied paper. Initially, we give the dotted line paper, dotted line such as to differentiate where the midline of the letter is, but with the initial exploration, the banded paper helps the child solidify the idea of proportion. Only then do we transition to paper, first one line and then to two lines. Working with paper. After the child has been working on plain sheets of paper, following the chalkboard, we offer a piece of paper. Perhaps it is a plain strip, and the child cannot exceed the upper boundary or lower boundary. There is a natural control of error. After that, we offer a piece of paper with perhaps one single line or two plain lines spaced widely, depending on the readiness of the child. By this time, they are already transitioning from the movable alphabet to paper. With more facility in forming the letters, that is when they move to paper. Take note of the child's cue for what size at this point is most comfortable. Make sure not to have a child write largely if they're ready for a smaller lined paper. Observe their cues for the development of smaller size. It is, we consider, unkind to have the child writing large on primary printed paper if the hand is developed enough for a smaller band. They do not even need to progress in a shrinking sequence. Some do, some do not, as we all develop the smaller muscular control at a different pace. We observe where the individual child experiences challenge in proportion, spacing, and orientation. Their lessons, likewise, may be done in a small group, since it is so much more fun than doing it alone. The child who is more developed sometimes enjoys kindly showing the less developed writer how to write the beautiful letter. This prevents beautiful writing from becoming a drudgery, the aspect of sharing and community, the only way writing was ever passed down. There is no appropriate age exactly. but these lessons are possible to those who need them. The sequence and gift of discovery. One may ask about the sequence of lessons in learning to write and form letters. While there are general sequences in each area of mechanics, that is, in the strengthening of the hand, the formation of the letter, the orientation on a line, the clarity of sound symbol association, the development of expressive language, the exactitude of sound games in hearing unique phonemes, in isolation, in blending and substitution. For each child, the lesson and sequence will differ according to the child's needs. This is why we say Montessori presentations are not a curriculum in the traditional sense. Every child will not go through the same sequence of lessons. Presentations must remain a personalized gift to each child. This is part of the intangible spirit of being the child's guide, or as we say, a Montessori guide, rather than the teacher. I anticipate the child's unique gifts and talents. The child is close to me, and I know the child, so I understand the child. I relay the gift of writing. I relay that this is a gift of human culture, of knowledge of the world at each moment when it is just right for the child, only as much as they need, then guide them to pass this knowledge on to others. I may even share that the movable alphabet and the sandpaper letter pieces were made out of wood and connected to the tree seen outside of the window in the craft of human hands, so that we care for those objects as they were once a living thing in our care. This is how we teach writing, with each lesson as an individual gift, given the name presentation, therefore. We allow the lessons to cross-fertilize in contact with other children, generating spontaneous new lessons. And the children want to share their gifts of discovery with one another.